Once football gets started, Kev, it is hard to believe how quick it goes. Here we are, NFL Week 3 already. It feels like just yesterday we were counting down the days till Eagles Cowboys season opener, and now Eagles are 2 0. They'll be facing the 2 0 Rams this week. We got some really good games on the docket this week. Lions at Ravens on Monday night. We got some touchdown scores to break down. Our NFL Big Five games of the week weekly episode is here, Kev. Welcome back. How are we? And ready for some more football.
Yeah, obviously super excited for this weekend and starting to figure out teams a little bit better now, but still only 2 weeks in. There's a lot of season left.
Yeah, I feel like through 2, 3 weeks, you can start to, like you said, kind of make some judgments on these teams. But like the Chiefs sitting here at 0-2, if they lose on Sunday night to the Giants and fall to 0-3, are we completely writing them off? Like I still think we give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of quarterbacks already getting injured. It doesn't look like Jaden Daniels is going to play this week. Obviously, Joe Burrow's out for potentially the entire season with his injury. So things can change every single week in this league. We talk about it all the time. I think if you're able to win like the Eagles do and make it through the game healthy for the most part, that's a successful week every week. We'll talk in depth about this Eagles Rams game coming up next, but a lot of interesting matchups on the docket this week. Broncos at the Chargers. We're going to touch on Steelers at Patriots. I think is a game that we could see those two teams vying for one of those final playoff spots, like the 6 or 7 seed. So some important matchups this week with some potential tiebreakers, maybe a potential Super Bowl preview on Monday night. So excited to get into it. But we will start with what I think is the flagship game of the week this week, and that's the Rams at 2-0, making that cross-country trip to Philadelphia to play the 2-0 Eagles in a rematch of last year's divisional round matchup. 1 o'clock kick on Fox. Eagles at home here, 3.5-point favorite. Over under is 34.5. Kev, do you think the Rams, for the first time over the last 3 matchups against Philadelphia over the past calendar year, can defeat the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I do. I think third time's the charm for them here. Last year, we all know the Eagles won both games against the Rams because Saquon just had 2 monster games. And I think that can definitely happen again, but I don't know if I'm going to be betting on that. The Rams come into this game leading the league in defensive points per game, only allowing 14. I know it's only 2 weeks, and they also did play the Texans and the Titans, who weren't expected to have incredible offenses this year. The Rams defense, though, is also currently not giving up any big plays in the passing game. The longest completion against them is 26 yards this year, which is best in the NFL. And that's kind of what seems to be missing from the Eagles offense a little bit, some big explosive plays. So they might not be able to get them this week. And I think the Eagles can absolutely win this game and wouldn't be shocked if they do, but I'm just going with my gut, and I think the Rams find a way to win this one after losing two pivotal matchups last year to the Eagles.
Yeah, the big concern for me for the Eagles in this one, surprisingly, is actually kind of the secondary. And the secondary, I thought, was one of the strengths of that team last year with Quinion, with Coop back there. Now you got Makuba in the mix as well this year. But you have a Hall of Fame level quarterback in Matt Stafford and definitely the best receiver duo you've played so far in Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. And the Chiefs had multiple guys open deep last week. They missed a couple. Thornton winds up scoring one late. And then even in week 1 against the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb was open a bunch and dropped a couple passes deep down the field. So this is a situation where I think that the Rams might be able to exploit the Eagles secondary a little bit. Quinion, I don't think, has looked great out of the gate. So if the Rams are going to pull off the upset, I think it's one go out there and Matthew Stafford throws the ball 35, 40 times in this matchup. When it gets back to the Eagles and them having to throw the ball, on paper, I could see this being a game where the Eagles actually do have to go out there, throw the football a little bit more, and this has to be more of a shootout. But I think the Eagles at this stage of their kind of dominance over these past 3 to 4 years, really, it's like they kind of control the tempo of the game, the way this game is going to be played. And if the Eagles find that the best recipe for success for them is just playing this kind of keep away style where they're going to run it, they're going to get to that 3rd and 2, get to that 3rd and 1 and get a first down and kind of matriculate the ball down the field and let that pass rush and that defense eat. I think the Eagles are good enough to kind of just adjust that tempo every single week to whatever that they want it to be. And I think when you're at home in this spot as well, you have the Rams number over the past few years, and Sean McVay in this spot as an away underdog. As we said, they're 3.5-point dogs during his time as Rams head coach. They're only 11-21 straight up as an underdog on the road. So this is a spot too that fits that trend. I like the Eagles to win this game. Am I going to be surprised if the Rams go in there because the Eagles are kind of playing with their food a little bit over these past 2 weeks and letting the Cowboys and Chiefs hang around instead of kind of putting their foot on their throat? No, I won't be surprised. So in that regard, I'm going to take the Rams to cover, but I will take the Eagles to win 23-20. Rams plus 3.5, under 43.5. Part of me wants to see the Rams kind of go out there and throw the ball around the yard and score a little bit early, see if the Eagles can actually go out there and throw the football a little bit. But I'm also on the part of the Eagles are winning. The Eagles are finding ways to win games. They're 2-0. Sure, you might be saying that it's not sustainable, the style that they're playing at this stage of the game right now. But they did it last year pretty much on the road to the Super Bowl, and they threw when they had to and when they needed to, and they succeeded and obviously won the Super Bowl. But when people are like, oh, I'd rather see them go out there and throw the ball 30 to 40 times and potentially risk losing, but I'm a little bit more entertained, like what kind of comments are that? Those things piss me off. So I'd be interested if this game does get into the 30s and you got to go out there and throw the ball back and forth a little bit. But I think the Eagles kind of direct the tempo of this game, and we get held under the 43.5. Eagles win it at home. The Rams cover the plus 3.5. All right, Sunday at 1 as well on CBS. The Steelers at 1-1 at the Patriots 1-1. Steelers 1.5 point favorite here on the road, actually, over under 44.5. And as I touched on in the beginning, Kevin, interesting game because I could see this come down to like a tiebreaker at the end of the year between 2, 9, and 8 teams potentially to get that 7 spot. So this one could be a big game for down the line such early in the season. What are your thoughts on this game, especially with the Steelers being favored on the road?
Yeah, I'm going Steelers 23, Pats 21. So the Steelers cover the 1.5, under 44.5. Are either of these teams good? Are they bad? I don't really know if either of them are either of that. They might just be kind of average teams, but I'm going to go with Mike Tomlin having his guys ready to roll here. And I know the Steelers defense has not looked as we would expect them to this year, but I don't know if the Patriots have the offensive weapons really to take advantage of the Steelers' slow start on the defensive side of the ball. And then I also expect the Pittsburgh D to kind of figure it out at some point. They just have too much talent to not. And then they've also proved it year over year for probably since Big Ben left. They've had great defenses, and it's kind of always been the offense lagging behind them. And then on the offense for the Steelers, which Aaron Rodgers we get this week is always just a fun game to guess. But I think he's going to be able to do enough this week against a Pats D that hasn't really looked great. And then especially if their cornerback, Christian Gonzalez, can't go again this week, I'm going with the Steelers to win a pretty close one.
Yeah, one of the most interesting matchups of the week here for me, just because I don't think we know enough about either of these teams yet. Like the Patriots are a bit more of that upstart team. Let's see what they can do in year 1 under Vrabel, year 2 with Drake May slinging the ball. But then when you look at the Steelers, you were touching on it, one of the more veteran-laden teams in the entire league. How good are they? Like, they didn't look great last week against Seattle. They looked pretty good the week before against the Jets, but we saw what the Jets looked like against the Bills. So still early in the season, still trying to figure things out. Aaron Rodgers still throwing the ball really well, but his mobility is super limited. They can't really run the football. Do you really want him having to throw the ball 35 to 40 times a night to go out there and win? So a game that I'm definitely going to be dialed in for and interested to see who comes out on top. But with the Steelers being a road favorite here, I'm going to lean with Vegas in that scenario and go Steelers 24-20. So Steelers minus 1.5, under 44.5. I think that's a little bit of a telling line there. And I'm going to give the upper hand to Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers in this matchup. All right, we go to 4:05 on CBS, an AFC West battle with the Broncos at 1-1, traveling to LA to play the 2-0 Chargers, who look awesome out of the gate. Year 2 under Jim Harbaugh. Chargers 2.5 point favorite here. Over under is 46.5. Kev, what do you like in this matchup?
I'm going Chargers winning by 10, 30-20. Chargers minus 2.5, over 46.5. Bo Nix has not looked like the same guy we saw the back half of last year. It reminds me a little bit of the regression we saw from C.J. Stroud this year and kind of continuing into this year. And then on the other hand, for the Chargers, Justin Herbert is playing the best football of his career. This is a real test for Herbert, as the Broncos were expected to have one of the best defenses in the league this year. That hasn't fully materialized yet this year, but a good sign for the Chargers is that the Colts were able to run all over the Broncos last week. And the Chargers haven't run the ball super well, averaging only 3.4 yards per carry, but that hasn't really mattered with Justin Herbert playing like he has, throwing 5 TDs and no picks through 2 games. But I do think this Chargers team led by Harbaugh, they're always going to want to kind of continue to run the rock. Maybe they're able to get going here this week. So I'll take the Chargers at home, and Justin Herbert has another statement game.
Yeah, Herbert, I think other than Josh Allen, probably not right now. And probably you can throw Lamar in the mix, looking like maybe the best quarterback in the league thus far. I'm interested to see if he can keep that up throughout the entire season. But Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a coach, man. Like he comes in there last year, immediately changes the culture, builds an identity. And now you flip the page into this year, already 2 pretty impressive wins, 2 impressive division wins. They can move to 3-0 in the division out of the gate. That would be a pretty dominant start and give them kind of a leg up on these teams that this is looking like probably one of, if not the most competitive divisions in the entire NFL. So that defense looks strong, especially up front. They're flying around. Khalil Mack out, though. That's going to be something to watch how they make up for that. But Derwin James, knock on wood, he stays fully healthy. That's a dangerous defense. Justin Herbert going out there, continuing to play well, taking care of the football, using his legs. If they can get that running game under control with these wide receivers. This is a Chargers team. On paper, they're good enough to win it all. They're good enough to win the Super Bowl. Let's see if they can continue that. And I like them to get this win at home, as you touch on with the Broncos. I haven't liked what I've seen out of them out of the gate so far, barely squeaked by the Titans. And then last week against the Colts, back and forth, they wind up losing that game towards the end. But things seem a little bit off for this Broncos team thus far. Let's see if they can correct it. But I like the Chargers to get this one at home, even on a short week. 27-23, I'll go Chargers minus 2.5 over 46.5. All right, another 4 o'clock game on Fox this time, 4:25 on Fox. Cardinals at 2-0, a surprise 2-0 start. A lot of people were down on them coming into the year. They'll be playing the 49ers, who are also 2-0. Doesn't sound like Brock Purdy is going to play, but I did see he was getting some limited work in practice. Mac Jones fills in last week and gets a win. Niners are a 1.5-point favorite here, even with Mac Jones starting at home. Over-under is 43.5. Who moves to 3-0 in this matchup?
I'm going Niners 23, Cardinals 20, so Niners cover the 1.5, under 43.5. I trust Kyle Shanahan to have Mac Jones ready again this week. He played pretty well last week, finishing 26 of 39 for 279 and 3 tutties. And then the Cardinals, the opponent, their 2 wins this year have been against the Saints and Panthers. You would argue probably maybe the 2 worst teams in the league. And the Cardinals didn't look super great in either one of them. I don't completely trust Kyler in any situation, and I think the Niners defense is going to be able to make some more stops than the Cardinals can. The return of Robert Saleh to coach the Niners defense has them playing really well. They rank 6th in the league in yards allowed per game, while the Cardinals offense ranks 25th. So I think that's a matchup that the Niners defense can certainly win. And the Cardinals 2-0 start is nice, but I don't think they're really scaring anyone. So I'm rolling with the Niners even without Brock. I'd be super surprised if he does end up playing this week.
I'm going to roll with the Cardinals. You kind of look at Kyler Murray and his history as the Cardinals quarterback. They tend to start out hot and kind of fizzle down the stretch. You get an opportunity this week to play Mac Jones. We're really going to bank on and count on Mac Jones to win back-to-back games. With the 49ers here, sure, roster-wise, they're probably better from top to bottom. But I'll take my chances on Mac Jones making a couple mistakes and getting the Cardinals here as a plus money play in this matchup. I like Kyler Murray, especially at the beginning of the season. I think this team is kind of continuing to grow, continuing to evolve under Jonathan Gannon. So I like the Cardinals actually to pull off the upset in this one, more so of a fade of Mac Jones and kind of just going on the history side of what the Cardinals have looked like early in the year under Kyler until he starts to kind of get banged up. So I'm going to go Cardinals to win this one outright here on the road, 24-23. The Cardinals plus 1.5, and we will go with the over 43.5 as well. All right, and then an awesome game on Monday Night Football with the Lions at 1-1, traveling to Baltimore to play the 1-1 Ravens. 8:15 pick on ABC. Ravens 5.5-point favorite. Over under is 51.5. Lions, Kev, looked awesome last week. Ravens have looked really good in 2 weeks now, despite the 1-1 record. Potential Super Bowl preview maybe down the line. Excited for this one on Monday night. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this one definitely should be fun. I have the Ravens winning 27, Lions 23. So the Lions do cover 5.5, under 51.5. The Lions got back to looking like the Lions last week, albeit against the Bears. I like the Ravens in this one, though. The Ravens and Lamar have been awesome in prime time games, going 21-8 since he became the starter. And with that being said, the Ravens do have a history of letting teams kind of linger around in games, not being able to put them away, not being able to close games out, just like in week 1 against the Bills. So I think the Lions will keep it close enough to cover. I don't think they're going to end up coming back and winning this specific game, but I don't picture the Lions offense having the same production it had last week. So I think their offense will be somewhere between where they were week 1 and week 2. They do have the offense to score with the Ravens, but I think Derrick Henry has a huge day here after a pretty quiet week 2. So I have the Ravens winning at home.
Yeah, the game last week with the Lions, I'll be honest, coming out of week 1, I was very concerned about that Lions offense. We saw the stats with Jared Goff without having Sean McVay or Ben Johnson calling the plays for him, how terrible he was. I believe it was 0-19-1 before last week. And then last week they go out there and light the Bears on fire for a 50 bomb. Now, does that say more about how good the Packers defense is or how bad the Bears defense is? Kind of like you were saying, or is it a mixture of both? I think the Lions still offensively are super talented. I think they're going to be able to put up points over the long term of the season. But with the Ravens being at home in this one, 5.5-point favorite, it's a pretty big number. 2, Vegas saying that basically they really like the Ravens in this spot. I'm going to go with the Ravens at home, but I think it's a scenario where we see a lot of points in this game. I like 30-27 Ravens win. Lions keep it within the number. Dan Campbell, we talked about it all last season, how big of a ATS money machine he is. And this is another spot where you could cash in on him potentially. Lions are 23-11 against the spread. That's 67.7%. Cover rate as an underdog against the spread under Dan Campbell. That's a 3rd best record in the NFL over that time. So don't need you to win, but keep it under that 5.5-point number. I think is certainly feasible. And I think these two offenses put on a show on Monday night. But I'll take the Ravens to win, Lions to cover, and the over to hit there. All right, final plays of the week, our touchdown parlay, lock of the week, and dog of the day. Touchdown parlay, we pick one guy on Sunday afternoon and then one guy on the primetime game, whether it's Thursday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. So I'll start it off on Sunday afternoon, leg 1 of the parlay. I'll go Jalen Hurts, -140. I think with all the noise about the tush push this offseason, but especially this week, I think the Eagles are just going to continue to run it more and more until they're penalized, until people start the outlawing it, doing whatever that they can to not allow the Eagles to run it. They're going to continue to run it. And if the Eagles are within the 1 or 2 yard line, Jalen Hurts is getting himself in the end zone, or we saw even week 1, he has the ability still to use his legs and escape. So Jalen Hurts -140 for my first leg.
Yeah, my first leg, I'm going Jamar Chase +130 against the Vikings. I think Jake Browning's going to be looking for arguably the best receiver in football, and he gets in the end zone this week.
All right, my primetime game, I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs -115 on Monday Night Football. Just touched on it. I think that's a very high-scoring game. Gibbs, one of, if not the most explosive running back in the entire NFL. I think the great part about him is he could score on a 5-yard carry, or he could rush it for 75 yards to the house like we've seen time and time again. So Jahmyr Gibbs there at -115, like him to get in the end zone on Monday night.
Yeah, my fourth leg from the primetime game. I'm going Thursday night, Devon Achane. 2 TDs last week. I don't really trust the Dolphins passing game, so I think they're going to be running the rock a lot more tonight against the Bills. I think he gets in the end zone again.
Our dog of the week, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears +1.5 at home versus the Cowboys. Listen, this is a spot where if the Cowboys find a way to beat the Bears and the Bears kind of lose this one in ugly fashion, things could go off the rails there in Chicago very quickly. People are already calling for Caleb Williams to get benched. This is kind of like a statement opportunity. Let's see what we got. Let's see if we can actually get this thing back on the track, because talent-wise, I think really this Bears team's up there with the upper half of the league. And for Vegas to price them as a home dog in this spot at only 1.5, I thought the way that the Cowboys have kind of looked through a few weeks, that this one would be probably closer to 3.5, 4. I think this one screams out of desperation for Chicago and getting that first win for Ben Johnson, especially at home here. So give me Chicago Bears +1.5. I like them to win that game outright on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, my dog of the day, I'm going Raiders +3.5 at the Commanders. No Jaden Daniels. It'll be Marcus Mariota. I'll just take the Raiders and see where that gets me.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head-scratching line there. If Daniels isn't playing, you'd think it would probably be flipped, but who knows? All right, lock of the week now, our favorite bet of the week. There wasn't really anything that was screaming to me. I had the Chargers -2.5 put in there as my lock, but I like to do something that wasn't really touched on during our 5-game preview. So went with one with a little bit of juiced odds, but I'm going to go Seahawks and Chiefs money line. That gets you in at -150. For my lock of the week, you parlay those two together. Seahawks at home against the Saints. They've already dropped one game at home this year. That's one of the best home field advantages in all of the NFL. So I like them to get it done against arguably the worst team in the league there in the Saints. And then the Chiefs. Are they really going to start 0-3? Are they really going to go and lose to the Russell Wilson-led New York Giants? I don't think so in this scenario. So I like the Chiefs and the Seahawks both to get it done there on the money line. You can get that at -150.
Yeah, my lock of the week. I didn't love any of the games either, like you were saying, so I'm going with a player prop. Jameson Williams, under 50.5 receiving yards, -111. He can obviously do this on one play, but he's kind of a low volume, super efficient guy, always getting the deep ball, which can often fluctuate a lot. And I think the Ravens have a pretty strong secondary, so I have him going under 50.5 this week.
All right, well, that'll do it for week 3 here on Beef Up Front, NFL Big 5 games of the week. The touchdown parlay starts tonight with Devon A-Chain, so get that play in. As always, thank you everyone for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll talk next week.